Praise the Most High Yahweh, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Creator of all things, the God who freed the children of Israel from Egypt, Babylon, and destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with brimstone and fire. So today we're going to be talking about the Babylonian captivity, because a lot of y'all don't really know the dates and times. So I'm going to help you understand what time that the second temple was built. Because when the Babylonians took over Jerusalem, they destroyed the first temple. That's why it says right here, after the return of the Jews from the Babylonian captivity. And you can read it in Zechariah 6, 9, and through 14. So Yahshua the son of Josdek served as high priest in 515, 490 BCE. Okay, so you're understanding that in this time it was 515, 490 BCE, and it was not the time that we're in now. See, right now we're in CE. Okay, so right here is telling you that King Cyrus, through his edict, that ended the Babylonian captivity. So right now you know that King Cyrus is the one that destroyed the Babylonian Empire, and then he had the children of Israel return to Mount Zion, and then he paid and gave them gold and everything they needed to build the second temple. And this is when Yahshua the son of Josdek was the high priest. So after standing for approximately 586 years, the second temple was destroyed by the Roman military during the siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE. So right now we're in 223 CE. So the Samaritans wanted to help build the second temple, but Zerubbabel and the elders declined such cooperation, feeling that the Jews must build the temple unaided by Gentiles. Immediately, evil reports were spread regarding the Yahuds, and the Samaritans sought to frustrate, which means they sought to stop the building of the temple, and with the result that the work was suspended. 7 years later, Cyrus, the king of the Persians, who allowed the Yahuds to return to their homeland, Jerusalem, and rebuild the temple, died. And then Darius became the king in 522 BCE. In the second year of his rule, the work of rebuilding the temple was resumed and carried forward to its completion. And then in 167 BCE, Antiochus ordered an altar to Zeus erected in the second temple. And then after that, it became the Maccabean revolt. And that's why you got to read the book of Maccabees. So Hanukkah commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem from the Romans, and subsequent rededication of the second temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire, which is Antiochus, in the 2nd century BCE. And Hanukkah is observed for 8 nights and days, starting on the 25th of December, the day of Kishlu, according to the Hebrew calendar, which may occur at the time from late November to December in the Gregorian calendar. The festival is observed by lighting the candles of the candelabrum with 9 branches, commonly called a menorah or a Hanukkah. One branch is typically placed above or below the others, and it is candle used to light the other 8 candles. So basically, you got to understand that the second temple was built, and then you had Antiochus, who then tried to put Zeus idols inside of the temple. Okay, so this is when Antiochus tried to take over Jerusalem, and he placed Antioch inside of Jerusalem. So the Maccabean revolt was a Jewish rebellion led by the Maccabees against the Seleucid Empire, which, as you can see, by the Macedonian general Seleucus I Nicanor, and they ended up killing Nicanor as well. And against the Hellenistic influence on Jewish life, the man phase of the revolt lasted from 167 to 160 BCE and ended with the Seleucids in control of Judea. But the conflict between the Maccabees, Hellenized Jews, and the Seleucids continued until 134 BCE, with the Maccabees eventually attaining independence. So, an internal conflict among the Jewish priesthood as a full-scale rebellion. Jewish practices were banned by Antiochus. Jerusalem was placed under direct Seleucid control, and the second temple in Jerusalem was made the site of synchronic pagan Jewish cult, which is Christianity and Antiochans. This repression triggered exactly the revolt that Antiochus IV had feared, with a group of Jewish fighters led by Judah Maccabees, Yahuda, and his family rebelling in 167 BCE and seeking independence from the Romans and the Syrians. The rebels as a whole would come to be known as the Maccabees, and their actions would be chronicled later in the books of 1 Maccabees and 2 Maccabees. Okay, so this is going to explain to you why Judea is not called Judea anymore, but it's called Syria Palestina. So in 132 CE, okay, so now you understand, growing in discontent at Roman rule led to the first Jewish-Roman War in 66 to 73 CE. And ultimately the siege of Jerusalem and the destruction of the second temple in 70 CE, bringing an end to the second temple period. And 132 CE, the province of Judea was merged with Galilee into an enlarged province named Syria Palestina. So, and I want you to know, this is why the children of Israel fought against the Roman Empire. Okay, so this is Jonathan the high priest, and this is what the Romans started doing to the real Yahuds that were in the land of Jerusalem who followed the laws. So Jonathan died CE 58, as referred to as Jonathan the high priest, was a first century Yahoo high priest and religious leader. Shortly after he was announced high priest of Israel, he was killed in CE 58 by Antonius Felix, the Roman protector of the province Judea, and he was stabbed by robbers hired by Antonius Felix with daggers at the second temple. So Felix persuaded one of Jonathan's most trusted friends, Doris, a citizen of Jerusalem, to hire robbers to kill Jonathan by promising to give a large sum of money to Doris. Doris arranged for some hired men to mingle with the worshippers in the second temple in Jerusalem while they hid daggers under their garments. These assassins succeeded in killing Jonathan during a Jewish festival and were never caught. The main source that mentions the high priest is the Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius Josephus. This is also what the Romans did as well during the time of Antiochus. So Eleazar was a Jewish man whose story is portrayed in 2 Maccabees 6:18-31. And one of the leading teachers of the laws of Moses and the Torah law. And distinguished bearing, according to the verse 24, he was 90 at the time of his death under a prosecution instigated by Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Eleazar was forced to open his mouth and eat pork, but he spat it out and submitted to flogging. He was then privately permitted to eat meat that he could pretend was pork, but he refused and was flogged to death. Okay, and this is another story. So the woman with 7 sons was a Jewish martyr described in 2 Maccabees 7 and other sources, who had 7 sons that were arrested along with her by Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who forced them to prove their respect to him by consuming pork. When they refused, he, Antiochus, tortured and killed the sons one by one in front of the unflinching and stout-hearted mother. And the pig, though it has divided the hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean to you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcass. They are unclean to you. So Antiochus forced us to eat unclean meat to prove that we're turning from the laws and being within Greek fashion. Praise the Most High Yahweh and repent.